Hi, welcome back. We thought we'd take a few minutes to talk about what goes on in the paint store on a daily basis. I mean, how are transactions handled? What do we do? A lot of folks come into the paint store with a preconceived notion that they're going to paint something. You know, shopping for paint is not something you necessarily. It's not an impulse kind of thing.
Not a candy bar sitting on the end of,
Right.
at the grocery store.
Or snow's coming and,
we gotta get milk and bread.
Right.
Right.
Milk and bread and paint.
And if you're watching in California and you
Sorry.
don't know what snow really is, it's okay.
So, I mean, there's been some thought put into it prior to. So, lots of times, do-it-yourselfer might come in and go, I'd like to get a gallon of white Dove. Well, that's part of the information that we need, but there's a whole lot more to it than just knowing what color you want.
Yeah, because we can make white Dove in probably 30 different products.
Right.
So we need to narrow that down.
And all 30 of those products aren't going to be appropriate for your project, possibly. So.
Or overkill.
I'm thinking it's more like 100. It may be only 30 products. But here's what we need to know. What kind of project are you doing? Because, again, we can't make white Dove in any type of paint. So one of the first questions we usually ask them is this for inside or outside?
And they normally like, oh, yeah, right. It's inside. I mean,
to
you it's a dumb question, but to us, we need to know, is it inside or outside?
Because paints are specialized.
Right. You cannot paint an exterior paint inside, and please don't do that.
Well, you can. It's just a setup for failure, and that's one of the reasons we ask the questions that we ask. You know, if you're painting outside, we want to make sure we get you a good exterior paint. If you're painting inside, we want to get you a good interior paint, and then we would like to know, what your expectations are out of that paint. If you're going to paint it and then repaint it again in 3 or 4 years,
right,
then we have a paint that you could use for that. We have different grades of paint. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah. The good, better, best. We probably put you in the good, and if you're not going to paint for 20 years, then we'll put you in the best.
Yeah, and that has a lot to do with your expectations from the paint coating, and it goes back to. Sometimes you just go to a hardware store and get the paint that they have on sale.
Right.
And
is that the right paint?
Is that necessarily what you need? No, not necessarily. Sometimes
right. It could have been the paint that was just sitting on the shelf there, and it was easy for you to grab.
Yeah,
right? and take with you.
Right, and sometimes the expectations of people coming to a independent paint store is that we're going to be a lot more expensive than going to some of those home improvement places. Not necessarily true.
Not at all.
And that's why another reason we have different grades with different qualities. And people ask, why is Benjamin Moore? Why should I use Benjamin Moore paint over somebody else's paint? And it has to do with the quality. Absolutely.
Yeah, right. Coverage, you get the better coverage. It goes farther, lasts longer, easier to wash up.
And easier to apply.
Right, much easier to apply. The people that come in just say how easy it was to put on there, and there was no mess, no splattering or anything like that. So it is easy to apply.
Well, I know a lot of people may think about color and things, but the other spectrum of it is how long is that going to take me to do it, and using a quality product
right
makes that job go a lot easier and a lot faster. Still can't do that HGTV half-hour show, but it does make it go a lot easier.
Right.
Then another thing we need to know is, are you painting your ceiling, your walls, and your trim? Generally, the ceiling and the walls are latex. Your trim, we need to know, is it a latex or is it an oil? If it's oil, you cannot go over it with latex. And we do have a hybrid that you can put on there called Advance, which will go over the latex or the oil. Or you can go back with a true traditional oil. We're in the state of Kentucky, so oil is still a viable product here, which I know some states you can't buy oil. So.
And Carol will give us a quick tip on how to check that trim paint
You
before
will?
you you will. You're the man.
I'm
on
the tip
this.
guy.
You're the tip guy on this, because I just usually look at people and go, I don't know what to tell you.
But there is a
Lord.
quick test that you can do to figure out what kind of paint may be on your trim. You can take some denatured alcohol, put on a piece of cloth, rub it on the painted surface. If the color comes off real easily, it's a water-based paint. If it doesn't, that means it's an oil-based paint. So it's always good to know what it is that you're painting over so that you can figure out what exactly it is that you need to go back with. And the advanced, the hybrid, is a good choice if you don't know or don't care to find out. It's going to work regardless
Yeah,
of
we're
that
gonna
particular
put
situation,
you in
as long as you
advance.
still do the proper prep work beforehand.
Well,
So,
and also, you know what I found out? You don't want to use fingernail polish remover. That will take off
Anything.
lacquer, oil base, anything.
And did you try that?
I tried that,
Really?
but that's okay. It was a lesson learned.
Wow.
Lessons are learned. And then one of the things that you hit on was is if you're painting your ceilings or walls or trim, and then we ask about
The Sheen.
the sheen.
The Martins.
The Martin, the Charlie, those are our favorite sheens.
Right, right.
Not
So-
necessarily Emilio. He's
No.
not really a.
And not all Sheens come in the same grade. So there's flat, which normally we do on a ceiling. It's not washable, so we don't recommend it for walls. There's a matte finish, which only comes in the top two products, the Regal and Aura. Then there's one that's eggshell, which is our most popular finish. Inside Regal, they've got a finish called Pearl, which is not as shiny as a satin, is it?
close.
It's
Close
close.
to it.
Close, but no cigar.
And then in Regal, or in Aura, we've got the satin finish. And then there's a semi-gloss, which normally satin and semi-gloss are for trim. And then we have a high gloss, which you can put on the trim too. Just remember, I know a lot of people are saying high gloss on walls and ceiling. The shinier the finish, the more imperfections it shows. So if you've taken off wallpaper and you've gouged your walls, you either need to skim coat them or do not put on a high gloss because you will see everything.
And the other thing is that unfortunately the paint industry doesn't have a standard for satin or eggshell.
All eggshells are not the
Right.
same. All satins are not the same.
And that's one of the reasons that we paint the walls here, not only to show off all of our decorating items, but Benmore satin is a lot shinier than stuff at the big boxes.
Right. So we can take them up front, show them what it looks like, and they go, "Oh no, I don't want it to be that shiny."
Yeah. And so I think that's another thing that people don't receive at a lot of paint stores is they'll go in and say I want satin, and they get it, and then they get it home, they get it on the wall, and it's just too shiny.
Well, they think that's their only option.
Right.
Because sometimes we'll say, "Well, you've got satin." And then they'll think, okay, then I need flat. And we're like, well, no, there's two in between there. There's
Right.
the matte and there's the eggshell. So you don't have to go down to flat and lose washability. You can go less shiny but still get washability.
Right.
Just a simple thing to simplify it a bit. You choose a sheen according to what kind of serviceability
Right.
you need. And also to keep in mind, the more shine you put on a surface, the more you're going to see imperfections
Right.
in that surface. So then you have to kind of gauge on what's more important to you. Do I need to be able to clean these walls, or am I trying to hide some major flaws? And am I more of an aesthetic kind
Right.
of person? I'm
Yeah.
looking for a particular look.
Right.
So,
No, we definitely don't want to put flat in a toddler's room.
no,
No.
You know,
Or a
no.
bathroom.
no, but that's you pick according to what kind of serviceability. you
Right.
want.
Right.
So, and just this conversation, we've come up with a lot of questions, and people get a little frustrated about we ask a lot of questions or try to find out what it is that you're doing. An analogy that I like to use quite a bit is coming to the paint store is like going to a restaurant and asking for a meal.
Yeah.
The waiter's going to want to know what it is
do you wanna
that you
eat?
want to eat. So,
You want
there's going to be
steak?
some
How do you want
questions
that
involved.
cooked? What kind of side do you want on there? What's your salad dressing on there? You want rolls with that? What do you want to drink?
Ranch, Italian.
Yeah, come on, help me here.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily work at Burger King.
No,
just
no.
you know,
Because, well, you have it your way.
Well, yeah, that's true. I do. Never mind.
Yeah, so you want the Whopper without the pickles, you could probably get
Yeah,
it.
there you go.
Another thing to keep in mind: there's no such thing as an average size room.
No, no. And
Doesn't
don't bring
exist.
us a picture on your phone that says how, and you want to know how
Well,
much.
this is the room, and this,
This
is
is
what
the
I'm
room.
paying.
I know, it doesn't work.
Yeah,
We need
but-
measurement.
Measurements help immensely, and that again, I sometimes harp on the big box stores. That's because I work for an independent dealer. But you know, they typically will just go and get, a lot of people just get 2 gallons because they think that's what every
Right.
room, whether it's a 10 by 10 room or a 20 by 10 room, 2 gallons. I need 2 gallons of paint. There's a lot of times that people will come in and they'll tell us they will have their dimensions, and they'll
Right.
go and I think I need 3 gallons of paint,
Right.
and we'll go, well, no, wait a minute.
Right.
You know, we only need
Especially
to
in
get
a
you one.
kitchen.
Yeah,
Right.
there's not a lot of wall space in
Right.
that. Or the typical one is usually trim paint.
Yeah.
Because people,
It's hard to gauge.
That is hard to measure on that
it's hard
one.
to gauge, and so the more information you take into your paint store,
Right,
the
right.
closer you're going to get to being able to have the exact amount of paint to finish your project. 'Cause
So bring in measurements.
Bring in measurements. It is always helpful.
And
yes.
Or
if you want another gallon of something you've already bought and you got the can at home,
Bring-
bring in the can.
and that goes for you know, every paint company.
And if you've, well, in our store, we'll ask, have you purchased anything from us before? Did you like that quality of paint? And I go, oh, yeah, what did I buy before? So we'll go to the POS system, we'll look it up, and we say, well, you bought Regal Eggshell. They'll say, fine, I want to use that again. Because it was easy to put on, covered well, it's held up for the 10, 15 years they've been doing it in another room. So,
Yeah, and that's another thing about those different grades is you're gonna get that longevity. All three of them are really pretty easy to work with, but you know, example, the Aura, you can recoat that. In,
Oh, yeah,
in
like an hour.
Right.
So you can knock out a room in a day.
Have a
2
party that
coats,
night.
and have a party. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, or if you choose a color, if you're a person who chooses a color and sticks with it forever, the better the paint that you buy, of course, the longer it's going to last.
right.
You know, if you're painting a kid's room, and the kid's going to, as it grows up, going to have different things that it wants in its
Right.
room and that sort of thing, you may not want to use the best every time because
Right.
it may not be needed. So we've
Right.
got some economical
Right.
versions.
And,
that you can use.
and that's one of the misnomers about you know, Benjamin Moore paint in particular is that it just costs so much,
Well, it
and
doesn't.
we have those grades of paint to try to help fit into people's
Right,
budget, and
yeah.
all of them are going to be better than the majority of the products that you get at a big box, and sometimes breaking through that
that barrier.
that little barrier there is hard for you to do. But once you know we've been doing this for a long time. Once we have somebody use the Benjamin Moore paint,
They don't
they're
go back to
hooked.
the other,
It
yeah.
is-
Yeah, become
They-
a customer for life.
That's
Yeah,
correct.
they just
Yeah.
say how
Correct.
easy it is, how easy it goes on, how it doesn't splatter, how easy it was to clean up, how long it lasts, how good it looks. I mean, it's hard to tell someone. They can tell when a good paint looks good on the wall.
Right, and that goes back to us painting the walls here.
Right.
I mean that a lot of it has to do with depth of color and how rich,
How rich it looks, yeah.
stuff looks.
Yeah.
That has to do with quality of paint sometimes.
Right.
Well, we hope our conversation has helped you next time you have a conversation with your independent paint dealer. Just remember, the more information you give, the better your project's going to turn out. Thanks a lot.